This evening on Rob's Inner Circle, we host a life coach, an author, and a Toastmaster. But most of all, we host someone who's absolutely delightful and whose smile is more than contagious. Stay tuned for another great show. We have another great show lined up for you tonight, so don't go anywhere. Stay right where you are. We'll be right back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Rob's Inner Circle, broadcasting live on my personal Facebook page, on the Bobby Short Shorts YouTube channel, and on the Rob's Inner Circle Twitch account. I have a huge shout out to give to my good friends, starting off with the amazing producer of Rob's Inner Circle, Miss Jenny Duhame. And also another shout out goes out to our podcast techie on the show, Patty Saragosa. Thank you, girls, for being on the show and for making the show as great as it is. We have an honorable mention tonight on our show. One of our friends, a local film maker, film producer, none other than Teresa Pichano. Her film has been selected to appear at the Best Shorts competition. The Maiden Date film is undoubtedly going to be up for nomination for many awards. On behalf of myself, Teresa, Patty, and Jenny, we wish you the best of luck and many, many awards for it. I wanted to give a special mention to Daily Struggles, the sitcom, which is now up and playing on the Rise Up TV channel on the Roku streaming service. You can go on to there and watch all of our episodes from season 1. And if you don't have the Roku stick to watch those episodes, well, not a problem at all. You can get that Roku stick for as little as $30 on Amazon. And if you prefer watching this on your smart devices, not a problem. There's good news. You could also download the app for Roku. We have our merch store up and rising with the collaboration of a good friend with Vincent Gargano. All of our merch is there for Daily Struggles. You got Rob's Inner Circle, Esther's Breeze, also up there now. We're out of the box. So all you got to do is go on to 514brandingco.com. That's 514brandingco.com. And you can go and get all of our collectible items that are on the store. Guys, it's a great idea. We invite you to go visit Bobby's Short Shorts YouTube channel. We invite you to watch our productions. Click on the playlists. You want to give us some nice comments, give us some likes, you want to share. Most of all, what you want to do is subscribe to the channel. And of course, don't forget to hit the notification bell, because every time there's a new production coming out, you will be the first to know. Guys, that's that time once again. It is time to slip into our weekly ritual. This is when we bring the energy down to that lower level. Take a deep breath. And then you exhale. Put your feet up on the corner of the table. Get the glass of wine or the cup of coffee, whatever it is that tickles your fancy, and let us carry the load. Folks, it's showtime. We have our guest backstage who's absolutely eager to come onto the show. I don't blame him. I'd be eager too. We're also very eager to have her on the show. She's an absolutely delightful person. She's colorful. I promise you, you're going to love her. She's an author, a Toastmaster, and she's also a life coach. Without further ado, let us bring on the amazing Antonia Lo Giudice.
Hi, Rob. Thank you.
Welcome to Rob's Inner Circle. Such a pleasure to have an amazing guest such as yourself. How are you doing, Antonia?
I'm doing wonderful, Rob. How are you doing?
I'm totally excited. Every time it's time to come onto the show over here, I get really excited. And tonight we have, because, folks, we've been talking backstage before we came onto the show and all that. and we shared some pretty amazing stories. And we can't wait to share these stories with you.
We did.
Teresa Picciano, this is our local film producer. Hello, Teresa. Thank you for tuning in. She's got the Mate and Date film that is up, that's going to be recognized. For sure, it's going to be getting a lot of nominations. And to everybody besides Teresa, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. It is such a pleasure to have everybody there. And a reminder, during the show, please feel free to ask questions to our guests. Antonia, let's get the ball rolling. So, Antonia,
do it.
You're an author. So tell us a little bit about your skills as a successful writer.
Oh, I think it's mainly because I think the biggest thing has been my passion for storytelling, Rob. I love storytelling. It's been part of my life from as far back as I can remember. Even if I wasn't writing, I was telling stories and engaged in hearing people telling stories. So one of the biggest things, if you know, in doing storytelling is that there's a certain craft that comes to it, right? So you put together some sort of a message, some sort of a journey in telling a story where you start off one way and then you go through movements, struggles, or whatever that is, and you end up another way. And so in that, what happens is that before you can even have any other skills, because you're speaking truly from the heart and getting across a message, the basic skills are already there. You know, we can always improve on how we write, how we craft our sentences and all of that. But at the end of the day, the most important thing comes from the passion to want to do it, the passion and the effort that goes into putting a story or any piece of writing together. So it basically, to answer your question, it was really from the passion of learning and putting together a story.
You know, one would be inclined, and whether you're a writer, a filmmaker, you're a producer, let's say a radio host, a podcast, or whatever, it's pretty amazing how much thought that goes into a creation, and we take that for granted. And sometimes I ask myself, where, and you're reading an amazing book, where do these people get this inspiration, which is totally amazing? I mean, it's like out of this world. I mean that literally. So how is it that you get inspired to write your literary work?
So if I speak on a personal level, I can probably start off from when I started my blog, actually, going back almost 10 years. I started my website immediately after I took a major leap of change in my life. And one of the main reasons straight off the bat was that I wanted to start inspiring people. And the way to do it was through storytelling, whether I was sharing my own stories or sharing stories from people that I met along the way. And I met so many amazing people all over the world, because although I was traveling across South America, I was meeting people from other parts of the world. And what connects us with people is stories, right? So in doing that, I started off with my website. And let me tell you, Rob, I had no previous writing experience really whatsoever. It was just for the passion of sharing these stories, and they flew. There was a flow that happened to it, because when you're telling a story, automatically you're showing a person, or you're giving a message, you're giving a lesson, but you're saying it through the experience of somebody else. So you're already starting off by the way somebody started, what they went through, to give them the life lesson that they learned. And you know what? Apart from just giving a system to someone, I mean, I can tell you probably, oh, you know what, Robert, it's really important to have courage and to believe in yourself. But if I share with you a story on myself, on how I started one way and what happened and how I went another way and the results from it, it's going to make a much bigger impact in your life, and it's going to make a much bigger impact in influencing you to believe in yourself, you know? So it came from that.
Okay, so you said you have a blog. Can you elaborate a little bit about your blog, what it's all about and all that, and where people could find this blog exactly?
So the blog is antonialogiudice.com, and in there I share inspirational stories. So it was all aligned with starting my life coaching business, right? So in starting my life coaching business, it was also a way for me to put myself out there and a way for me to let people know a little bit on who I am and why they would be coming to me. So I shared experiences that I went through, mainly from my travels, a little bit past experiences, but mainly from my travels. And what I did is I shared lessons that I was learning along the way, things that I was picking up. So, example, my first stop when I went to South America was Argentina. Now, I don't think, even if you haven't been, if anyone hasn't been to South America, I don't think I need to tell you that it's a completely different culture, completely different
Indeed.
tradition, completely different language. And so there was a lot to adapt to. And one of the things from people coming from where we come from, so from, you know, Western civilization, North America, Europe, we were born, and we take sometimes for granted the way things are laid out for us, right? We have a certain structure, the way we do things. And so when you go to these countries sometimes, well, your whole world is kind of like not turned upside down, but it's almost like you have to relearn everything from scratch, including crossing the street. I'll even tell you, including crossing the street, because there's not a given set of rules like we have here. So I was sharing these things, but when I was sharing them, I wasn't just saying what was happening, but I was sharing what I was learning from them and what I was getting out of it, things that I was learning. And I learned so much about the beauty and the simplicity of things in the world, but from these people, and so much about things that I discovered about myself that I didn't know from learning these things. Example, when I first learned how to speak Spanish, I shared this story recently, but it was a major awakening for me. Because when I first went to Argentina, I knew the first thing I was going to do was learn how to speak Spanish. So I took courses. The thing is that I thought, because of my Italian background, because I already speak Italian, I would, in 2 weeks tops, I'm going to have it down packed. I have this language all sorted out. So I took the course. Now, every session is about 3 weeks, right? And after about a week and a half, I would say I had learned a few words. So I learned buenos dias, ¿cómo estás? Me llamo Antonia, you know, things like that. But I was not able to carry out a fluid conversation. Now, after a week and a half, I thought I should have. Right? I mean, I had my Italian. How could this be? Now, the biggest pivotal moment happened when we had our exam. We were almost heading into the 2 weeks. We had an exam. I get my exam back, and I had a 78%. Now, you would think, not too bad. But remember that there's people from all over the world in this class, right? Everyone is there. We're all expats from Sweden, Holland, France, Korea, everywhere. And we're learning Spanish. So I get a 78%. I look over, because this is what we do, right? Every time we get something, don't we look over to compare ourselves to how other people are doing? So I turn around And the Korean guy, Korean. I have Italian background. He's got Korean. He had a 98%. That's when I flipped over my exam and I said, that's it. This is not for me. If I didn't pick up Spanish after almost a week and a half, this is not for me. I'm going to finish the session and then it's over. I'll just get by with my English. So I was about to give up. And I hope that everyone is listening and paying attention to what happened here. And one of the reasons why I shared this as well. Okay. So when I spoke about it there was Cornelia, one of my friends from Sweden, and Jean from France. So they were all going to go out and they told me, oh my goodness, no, hold on a second, Antonia, before you give up, come with us. Every week we go to a language exchange. So it's an event that happened where Argentinians and foreigners got together and we practice. Argentinians practice to learn English and we would practice Spanish with them to learn Spanish, right? So I went.
That's pretty cool.
That night, I had a blast. I was speaking Spanish. My Italian was coming out every now and then, but it didn't matter. And every time it did, they would correct me. And I think I learned more Spanish in that night in 3 hours than I had in a whole week. So what happened? I mean, yeah, sure, I was going to school, but practice, and practice. Exactly. I wasn't doing it, right?
Oh.
So I went back and I kept. Now my friends were Argentinians and we became close friends and we were speaking Spanish. And then this is what I did when I went to Chile after. I always stayed with the locals and I improved my Spanish to the point that about 3 months later, I was able to have a fluid conversation. Okay. Now, the point that I was trying to make is that sometimes in this, what I learned is the unrealistic expectations that we place on ourselves. And it's one of the things that in my life coaching, I see a lot, with sessions. We place ourselves, we want to go from where we are, but we don't want this. Like, I don't want to be here. I want to be there, but I want to get there now. I don't want to go through all this. Just let me get there now because this, where I'm at, I don't like it. And so we place ourselves an unrealistic expectation. But what happens when we do that? Exactly like what almost happened to me. When we cannot meet the expectations that we set on ourselves, the next step leads to quitting and giving up. Because we most often feel that, hey, I should already have been there. I should already have been there. This is taking too long. I should be there. So we keep on shooting all over ourselves and we never get anywhere. And then we stick to that and we're miserable, not accepting where we are. So.
No, sorry. I'm sorry to cut you off. Keep going, Antonia.
Go ahead. So if you first accept where you are and you give yourself the permission to give yourself the time that it takes to where you want to be, not only will you get there, but you are going to have so much fun in the process, regardless of how long it took. It doesn't matter how long it takes if you're having fun. But if your focus is only getting to the end goal, you will not enjoy the process. You're not going to enjoy the journey. And you're not going to stop comparing yourself to other people. And when you do, like I did, well, you're going to consider yourself that this is not for you. You're not good enough. You're never going to get this. And it's so not true. It just took me longer than somebody else. And all I had to do was continue practicing. And the most important thing in this is that had I given up And I could have, because in Argentina, you could get by with only speaking English, especially if you hang around with expats, because they're all over the place. Buenos Aires is packed with expats. They love it. Okay. So I could have gotten by with speaking English. But had I done that, I would have never learned my Spanish. Not only that, I would have missed out on one of the most amazing opportunities I've ever had, which is give conferences across Colombia.
Okay, well, that's totally amazing. It's a beautiful story, very inspiring. And to get back, when you're saying, what happens is sometimes we want to give up and all that, the problem with humanity as a whole, because this is something that we have to teach ourselves, it's called patience. What happens is that, see, in your case, for example, you wanted to learn Spanish, is that you had set a certain goal. I have to learn this within 2 weeks. So you know what? It took the Korean fella maybe a week to learn it. It may take you 6 months. It doesn't make you any less than your neighbor. The thing is that we each have our own abilities to absorb something, and it takes a while, and we have to have the patience to do it. That's the whole idea.
Absolutely. And you hit it right on, Rob. To give ourselves the permission and give ourselves the patience is one of the most beautiful gifts to give ourselves. Sometimes we don't realize that we become our worst enemy. I mean, sometimes when you look at it, if a friend would tell you something, what would you tell your friend? You would probably show them this kindness or patience, I'm thinking, right? But when it comes to ourselves, we don't. And so then a frustration, sometimes an anger and a bitterness starts building up inside of us. And we start thinking we're not good enough. I can't, anything that we would want to try, we don't dare because I'm afraid I'm going to make a mistake. I should already know this. That's another unrealistic expectation. When every time you want to start something new, you give yourself the kindness with the permission to make mistakes. And you know what? At the beginning, yeah, you might fall. You might make a big mistake. But why? It doesn't mean that that's the end. I learned that in every mistake, if you see it as an opportunity, that this mistake is showing you what you need to know, then from that, you'll always see them as an opportunity. Oh, okay. Well, this is it. So what do I need now? So it's telling you what you need and what you're missing. Because you know what? There's no elevator to anything that we want to accomplish in life, right? You need to take the staircase. You need to take a staircase and one step at a time. And whether yours is a baby step or for somebody else is a major leap, it doesn't matter. What matters is you, and that you accept yourself from where you are now.
Antonia, we keep having the pop-ups over here. We're talking about your books, the Lollipop Triumph. There's also Stop Hiding and Discover Yourself. These are 2 memoirs you wrote, I believe, right?
Stop Hiding and Discover Yourself was more of a guide. It was the very first book I wrote when I started this. It was immediately after I started my journey. I would say probably within the first year. So what I did with that one was I took everything I had come to know, all the experiences. And what I did is that I gave a guide for people to follow, to recognize and rediscover themselves through hidden barriers. Okay, so I believe that people don't need fixing, and the minute somebody labels themselves that they need fixing, it ends up keeping them stuck even more. So the minute you realize that you're enough and that there's just barriers that have been keeping your full potential buried inside, then what it is just to recognize them and then to start letting them go. letting them go. And then when you let them go, your full potential was already there. Now it just has room to come out in the open. So Stop Hiding and Discover Yourself was that. It was a guide from everything I had learned from managing employees back in the times, taking people that were considered as hopeless and developing them to reach their full potential and into doing things that they never thought possible. And for me, that was such a beautiful gift to have seen, to have given that to people. And this is what I wanted to do with my life now. So I wrote Stop Hiding and Discover Yourself for that. It's a small little electronic book, but it's a guide on how to identify barriers, let them go, and then discover your full potential and bring it out into the world. But the Lollipop Triumph, that is a memoir. That's my most recent one that was just published in December on Amazon, on both paperback and electronic. And it's on Amazon in all marketplaces across the world. Yeah.
Okay, just a reminder to the audience. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this amazing show. Antonia is absolutely captivating. Her smile, her energy is like so contagious. I feel so energized and boosted. So, folks, this is just a reminder to you that please feel free to go ahead and ask questions to Antonia, because Antonia is going to gladly oblige. Am I right, Antonia?
Absolutely. Sure. Why not? Yeah. I love questions.
So you said something absolutely elemental about your book there, Stop Hiding and Discover Yourself. You said something about letting go. And that is something that people in general have a hard time doing. What happens is that there are blockages inside of us. There's fear. We're scared. And letting go, that's what stops us sometimes. I guess you can elaborate more than what I'm saying here, because you're a life coach as well, and you have training also in psychology. So in terms of like letting go, the fear of letting go, the blockages that we have and all that, how is it that we can liberate ourselves in order to be able to let go?
That's a very good question, Rob. So I would say, let's see if I try to make it as simple as possible. The first step would be to be aware. First of all, be aware of your fear, right? So we're afraid. Now, the next thing, once you're aware of it, you stay with it, you recognize it, and you identify it. But most of the time, what we do is we don't like that feeling of fear, right? And in today's society, being afraid sometimes is frowned upon. So what do? We try to numb it down, right? Or escape from it. And fear sometimes can come in many shapes and sizes. It can come from shame, it can come from guilt, it can come from regret, all of that. Or, we were always told that mistakes sometimes can be the worst thing that you can possibly make. So this develops a fear. I'm going to be afraid to try something new, because if I make a mistake, that's the worst thing that somebody can ever do. And now what are people going to think of me once they see that I made this mistake? You know what? It's better that I stay where I am, But you need to recognize it first. And be honest with yourself. So the only way I find first to move forward is when you start to be honest to yourself about yourself. And once you are and you stay with it, I would say, look at it and see how is it serving you in your life. Okay, this is your life. Okay. You have to live it.
And that's the whole thing.
So once you do that, yeah.
No, I'm sorry, because what happens? I don't mean to sound rude, but the image is cutting, and I get the impression you finish your sentence. But I'm sorry if I cut you off. Please go on, Antonia.
No. Okay.
Go on,
so once we do that, and you've identified with it, and you've recognized it, and you see, how is this serving me in my life? I'm the one who has to live this life. And right now I'm making decisions based on being afraid of maybe what people might say. So once I do that and I recognize that this is my one and only life, can I see the danger in that? And once you see the danger in that, the danger in the sense of how you're going to be living the rest of your life, well, what's going to happen? If we look at it physically, right? So if at some point I come across, I don't know, a poisonous snake or a lion, example, the minute I see it and I see the danger in it, what do?
You run.
I run. Exactly. In the same way, once I see the danger of my fear and what it's doing to my life, in that moment, you don't even have to put any effort in it. Okay? So it's not an effort to say, okay, you know what? I'm afraid. That's it. I'm going to stop being afraid. In my experience, I would say no, because you're resisting the fact that the fear is there. And if you have the fear, the number one thing is to accept it and tell you it's okay that I'm afraid. It's to understand where it's coming from and why it's there. And you can do that. Somebody can do that on their own. If you see it and you stay with yourself to see and understand where it is and then see the danger in it, it's like almost automatic that you'll be able to move forward. Maybe little steps, remember, tiny steps. But as long as you're taking tiny steps, you're moving forward. But it's all in being honest to yourself as to why. I'll give you an example. I remember when I was in Colombia, one year when I was in Colombia, it was probably I don't remember, maybe 2016. It was the first year that I started giving conferences there. So I never planned to give conferences in Colombia, but the owner of the condo where I was renting, one night he came over and, we had supper and we were talking, sharing stories and what we were doing and everything in Canada. So I told him what I was doing and I shared my stories. As he was listening to me, he got intrigued, but at some point he got excited because he was a professor of one of the universities in Manizales. Now we were in Manizales. So he stops and he says, Antonia, if you agree, in 2 weeks, I would love for you to come and give a conference and share all this motivational and inspirational stuff to our students. Okay. I got excited. I'm like, oh my God, yes. I didn't even think about it. I was like, yes, of course. Yes, set it up. We're there. He goes, okay, I'm going to set it up. I'm going to come back and see you. We're going to set it up. Absolutely. I have a say in this. It's going to be a done deal. Great. Well, the next day when I woke up and the excitement settled down, I was like, okay. What did I just do here? Okay, I can't do this. This thing is in Spanish. Remember, it's in Spanish, right? They don't speak English in Manizales. So I had to give this in Spanish. So I started freaking out. And I was like, okay, I can't do this. I turned to my husband and I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to tell Carlos that I can't do it. I just can't. And my husband is looking at me. He's freaking out. I said, it's in Spanish. I can't do this in Spanish. This is an audience. Because another thing is that he told me, he goes, it's going to be an audience of 200 students.
That's going to help. Eh?
I'm like, oh no. So, you know what? That day, I had gone to my favorite coffee shop in Manizales. I knew everyone there. And I said, okay, you know what? I need to go out. I need to go and have a coffee and just let this sink in and try to find a way to tell Carlos that I wasn't going to do it. So while I was there, the waitress, I knew her. We had struck up a conversation. We were talking, and she was like, "What's going on?" I said, "Oh, I'm in a little bit of a dilemma. I'm going, and I have, So we were talking. When she walked away, something hit me. Something dawned on me. I don't know if you've noticed. What language have I been speaking to with these people?
Spanish?
I've been speaking Spanish. I've been speaking it for 3 years now. At that time, it was already 3 years. So I said, hold on a second here. Now watch, everything that I said before, I'm going to show you through me. So I said, okay, so this is an excuse. What's really going on here? So I had to look, what's really going on here? I had to be honest. There was a fear. I needed to understand it first. And it was the fear of not having something of value to share with these people. And I'll tell you why. This had been the third year I was in Colombia. You can't imagine how much I learned from these people, from their lives, from the way they live, their values, their beliefs. They're happy. They were named the happiest people in the world in 2012. There's a reason for it. All this I learned from them. So I thought, okay, well, what am I going to share with them now? So once I realized it and I said, this is what it is. Okay, well, hold on a second here. There is a value because Carlos saw it. So let me have fun with this. Well, I called all my five friends in that coffee shop. I set them down at the table and I said, okay, I'm going to take up an hour of your time here. And I made like I was giving them my conference with zero preparation.
Wow.
They cried, they laughed, they were inspired. And they said, you have to give this. These young people need to hear your message. And I did.
Antonia, you are totally blowing me away, But if you still have to keep going with the flow of the conversation, you have more to add, please feel free. But I just thought I'd put that in there. It's like, you're changing my life tonight without knowing it. The inspiration you are bringing to myself, and I am sure you are touching many among the audience. So, Antonia, did you want to carry on with what you were saying?
Oh, I love it. I hope they were able to see a little bit, if anyone is listening, to see a little bit of themselves in it. When I share the stories, it's to show that I know what it's like. I've been there. So it's to share them to see. Once you bring, so in my life coachings, what I do is I always try to point the finger back to the person. And sometimes I know it could be frustrating for them a little bit because they just want to be given an advice or an answer. And that's not what life coaching is about. For me, it's about going on this journey with them so that they discover things for themselves and they come to understand themselves through their experiences so that they can actually get that insight on their own. And once you get that on your own, then you're done. You don't need me anymore. But if I tell you what to do, then I handicap you, right? It's like you'll always need that crutch. So I haven't helped you if I do that.
So basically, what you're saying, this is very similar to Star Wars, in the sense that dig deep within yourself. You hold the answer. May the Force be with you.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I like that analogy. I should use it. I never used that one, Rob. You see, now you
But
just
you
gave
know
me
what?
another one.
The fun part about this is that a half hour after the broadcast, you can go back and watch the broadcast again. And if we brought something special to you and you can use it, by all means. So you can go back and reference back to the point where we went deep within ourselves and we hold the
Oh,
answer. May the
absolutely.
Force be with you.
Absolutely. And it comes down to the writing that we're doing now with them.
Exactly.
Okay. It always, if you see what we just spoke about, you'll notice that you could apply it to any element or any experience of your life, right? Whether it's this, whether it's that, whatever that is, it's just to see when I'm afraid, let me stay with the fear and now let me be honest with it. And sometimes you might end up finding out things about yourself that maybe you don't really like about yourself. And sometimes that could be painful, right? So, and that's why we numb it down. That's when shame comes in, regret, and all of that. And you know what? If you numb down the ugly, the ugly that I don't want to see, well, if you notice, you can't pick and choose the emotions that you numb down. If you're going to numb those down, you're going to numb down everything. So if you're going to disregard something that's going on within you in that moment, well, you're also going to do the same thing with your happiness. You will. You cannot be full of life or full of joy while having other little emotions that you don't like in the back, put them under the rug. I don't know if you ever notice, every time you sweep stuff under the rug, especially in the winter, when you lift up the rug, what happens?
It accumulates there and nothing happens.
There's, I don't know, funny other stuff there that are growing. It just stays there. It's not going to go anywhere, right? So it's just to give yourself permission and give yourself a kindness and understand why you took certain actions or did certain things and let them go. And as soon as you do and you give yourself that kindness and that permission to do so, you end up accepting yourself for but the whole of you. And when you accept for yourself for the whole of you, now you become enough. And when you become enough, now you're filled with the possibility of connections, a connection with other people. And I can tell you from meeting people from many parts of the world, different cultures, different traditions, different languages. We all have different things, different religions even. At the core, we all crave that connection. And at the core, we all share the same quality of emotions that connects us. But you need to first do it with yourself.
Antonia, I cannot believe this. It seems as if only 2 minutes ago we went on the air. We are well advanced into the show. And there's one aspect that I did want to touch because all that you're saying and all that, that's exactly what a life coach would be saying. So You are a life coach. Can you tell the audience what it is exactly that a life coach does?
Exactly. I can say that from my experience. So if I take a step back and I look at what I do, a life coach will focus on the here and now of the person from where they are now, with no judgment and no direction. The here and now, and then where the person wants to go, and then finding the gap to bridge that together. And the way a life coach will take the person from where they are now, getting that acceptance and getting the person themselves to see and accept with no judgment and no criticism, just to see it for what it is. How we bridge the gap is a little bit like everything that we've been discussing since the beginning of the show. So it's recognizing for themselves to discover through their experiences, and through in that understanding, there's a learning that takes place and there's a discovery that takes place that lets go of all those barriers. So the need for approval, right? I'm not good enough, or it's too late for me, or maybe I shouldn't this, or another thing is I should already have been, I should already have, or this person is doing this person is doing that. So we go on a journey. So I take them on a journey together through questions, and we find out, and then I make them dig deeper, and I make them go deeper. And sometimes it can get a little bit uglier before it gets better, because a big reason why a person is in that conflict is because they've kept things numbed down, or have judged themselves, or have stayed in situations that were not making them happy. And they convince themselves through some maybe excuses or justifications in it. So once you're aligned with yourself, then sometimes actually, Rob, their outside world changes without having changed. Sometimes even the people that they're around, they end up seeing them in a different light because they changed. So it's the whole thing about me. It's the whole thing about them first.
Antonia, I wish I could stop the time. Is there any way to take the battery out of the clock? Because we got so much to cover here. I just wanted to touch as well. You joined Toastmasters. We met last week with author Kathy Mulroy, and she's also a Toastmaster. So are Alid Mohammadi and Aurora Liang. There must be something special with this group. Talk to us about your experience with them.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's a funny story. Okay, so the way I came to know Toastmasters, so this is going to take us back, I think, 2013, 2014. Anyway, so I had already started this journey, right, of traveling throughout South America. And at the time, what I was doing is I was doing my life coaching. So I had my online life coaching going. Now, every summer, I would come back to Montreal. I always came back to Montreal in the summer, visit my family and friends. Well, one particular morning, we were in Quebec City. We were visiting my in-laws, because my in-laws live in Quebec City. And I was having breakfast. And the newspaper was right beside me. So I'm flipping through the newspaper as I'm enjoying my breakfast. And there's the view of the river where my in-laws live. They live and they have a spectacular view of the St. Lawrence River. Maybe that has something to do with it, but at some point I noticed an ad in the newspaper, and they were asking for participants. They were looking for participants for the next TEDx talk in Quebec. And the theme was going to be New Frontiers. So I figured, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to send my story, New Frontiers. I made a major life change. I think maybe my story might fit their theme, and maybe there'll be an interest. So I sent it out and I let it go. I said, oh, that was fun, but hey, maybe not. But you know what? About a week later, I got an email and they loved it. They loved it. And now they invited me with a date where I had to go in person, and like audition. Now, I don't know why, Rob. I really don't know why. But the way I saw it was like, okay, so I'm going to be in a room. It'll be like there'll be two people there, and it'll be like an interview, right? And they're going to have me elaborate on the story that I sent by email. So I get there. It was at the university in Quebec City. And I'm sitting where they told us to sit on the lounge, and I'm waiting for somebody to come and greet me. So she comes, tall, posture, like graceful, and wow. She shakes my hand with a firm handshake, very, very articulate. She presents herself, and then she leads me to the room to give the audition. So as we're walking, again, I'm expecting to go in a small room with 2 or 3 people interview. She opens these big doors to the auditorium, an auditorium full of people. Then she
Surprise.
points to the front center stage, big red rug. There was spotlights right on the rug, cameras filming it, and she tells me to go center stage and give my speech.
Let me guess, you were not nervous at all, right?
I don't know how I made it to walk on the stage with my high heels without falling.
Oh my
I
God.
was shake. I thought I was so convinced that I was gonna fall. I wanted it to end. I was like, this can't be. So now I have to go through with this. So I did. Spotlights on me, cameras. I started saying my speech, and I kid you not, I don't know how to best describe it, only by saying I could hear my voice, but I could not understand the words that I was saying.
That's pretty scary.
And then all of a sudden, I forgot what I had to say. For 5 seconds, I was like, count 5 seconds. They were
That's
the
long.
longest 5 seconds of my life.
Oh my God.
I found my voice, continued on, and I kid you not, I just raced off the stage. And I'm raced off the stage. I see the same woman coming down, and it looked like she wanted to come, to meet me or greet me. But I just went, I pretended I didn't see her, and I went straight out of the auditorium.
Oh, wow.
And I'm walking straight to go to the bathroom to hide. And all along I'm saying, oh my God, I can't believe. Now, I'm being polite here, but the actual dialogue was very colorful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I was saying, I can't believe you did this. I can't believe you did this. You just made a fool out of yourself. What the hell were you thinking? Never, ever again. You're never going to do this again in your life. So I went to the bathroom. I took a deep breath. I looked in the mirror, and all of a sudden, I played what I had just done, and I started cracking up.
Why not?
I found it hilarious because I was picturing everybody in the auditorium, what they must have been thinking when they saw me race off the stage.
They probably thought you had to go to the bathroom, that's all.
Oh my God. Anyway, so the point that I want to make with this is that in that moment when I said never again, but then the moment I was able to laugh at it, there was something in me, Rob, that I was not satisfied with the letting it go. I was like, I can't. You know what? There was something about it that actually felt really good. So that's when I found Toastmasters.
Oh, okay. There you
So
go.
if you know what Toastmasters is a platform where we learn, it's for public speaking and all of that. So I joined the Toastmasters, the CN collaborators downtown. And one of the mentors, when I told him this story, he was like, oh my God, Antonia, you skipped 10 steps. You see what I mean? I went, and then because I skipped this and I went straight there and it didn't go out well, right away I wanted to give up again, right? That unrealistic expectations. But if you truly listen to yourself and when you're honest with yourself and you feel that excitement of not wanting to give up and you give yourself permission to fail or ridicule yourself or make a fool out of yourself, and you can give yourself that kindness, then something else happens. Then you're shown what you need to do. Wow. So when I failed there, it wasn't that I had to give up. I was showing, hey there, sweetheart, what were you thinking skipping 10 steps? Get back in line.
That's the way to do it.
So I got back in line. And I did my competent communicator manual in less than a year. Wow. I had so much fun. I loved it. Loved the learning. Rob, that's another thing. You have to have a passion for learning. And when you're doing something, enjoy the learning. If you enjoy the learning and you enjoy the journey, okay, the end result is going to come. And whatever it is, it is. But if you've enjoyed the journey, that stays with you forever. So from that, I started giving my conferences in Montreal and then led to Colombia.
Wow. What an amazing journey and story. And we got time for one last question. And we have
Oh, my
someone who's
book.
tuned in.
Or
Well, you know
somebody,
what?
oh, somebody asked a question. Okay.
Well, actually, we can talk about your book right after, but you have a
Yeah.
connection with one of our past guests on our show over here, the owner of Dance 123 Studio,
Yes.
someone by the name of Connie Rotella.
Oh
What's
my
the
God.
connection to her?
Connie. I love her. Oh, the day Connie came in my life. We do have a common friend that we have to thank for that. She's I'm sure she doesn't mind me saying her name. So it's Nikki's one of my beautiful, dear old friends. I love her to death. And her daughter dances at Connie's studio. And one day Nikki said, "Oh my goodness, Antonia, you have to meet Connie. You're going to love her. The two of you are similar and you're going to love her story. You're going to want to share it on your blog." And that's what happened. That's what we did. I shared her story on my website. It went haywire. And then from there, Connie decided to write her own book. I mentored her through the whole thing. Loved it. I am so grateful I was a part of her journey on that. And then now this year, when I published my book, The Lollipop Triumph Memoir, well, what we did, Connie reached out to me. This was in December, and right away, she reached out to me and decided that we host a writing workshop on how to structure memoir. And we've been working together ever since. We've had a blast. I love her. Because of her, I have met so many amazing people. I have heard so many amazing stories from people that are sharing, that are actually working on their own books and memoirs. It's going to be wonderful. And we're actually wrapping up a final one, but we're so excited about it. We already have a few names for the next one, and we are gonna have another one, Connie and I, in August. So there's gonna be another writing workshop structure in August, and I would love if anyone here has a burning story inside of them that they're dying to get out into the world but don't know how to go about writing a book, send your names to Connie's. I believe it's info@dance123.ca. And we're putting it all together. We already have some names, and we're going to start it off. And with those names, we'll come back with the exact date, but it will be in August. That's how I know Connie, and I love her to death. I don't know if she's here tonight, but if she is,
Yeah, she is here. She tuned in. Yes, she's on Facebook. There she is, along with Marilena Candido. Welcome to both of you, Marilena and Connie. Thank you for tuning in.
Hi,
And
Connie.
thank everybody for tuning in. You know what, Antonia? I feel absolutely awful because I had 4 pages of questionnaire. We only went through, Antonia, you won't believe this. Folks, you won't believe this. 3/4 of 1 page. We have enough material for 2 more shows. Maybe our producer could work something out, and who knows, a little bit farther down the line, we'll bring you back and take off where we didn't have enough time to go.
Absolutely. I knew this was going to happen. I told you once I get going, Rob. But
well, you know what? You're an absolutely amazing guest. God bless you. Listen, Patty and myself and the whole audience out there, we wish you the very, very best. you're such an influence. You have had an impact on myself tonight, and I can
Thank you.
imagine the impact you've had on the rest of the audience. Everybody, even though the show is going to be over soon, you can go into the Bobby Shorts channel, go onto the playlist, click onto this particular podcast, and you can still ask the questions. And we're going to make our wonderful guest, Antonia Lo Giudice, know all about what it is that you're asking. Antonia,
Yeah.
you got to go. Sorry. I feel so bad. But the fun part is, yes, go ahead.
We'll come back. We'll come back, and I'll have a lot more stories to tell. That's the bright side of things.
You know what? Hey, who knows? We'll fix it up with the producer, and we'll see. We'll take it from there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Rob. I had so much fun.
Well, thank you for being on our show. You're absolutely amazing, and thank you to the audience for tuning in. Antonia, we have a meet and greet right after this, so if you want to stand by, I'm just going to sign out, say bye to everybody.
Okay.
And we'll be right back and have our Toastmasters event. Salud.
Salud.
We'll be right back, Antonia. Ciao. Ciao for now.
Bye, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was our amazing guest tonight, Antonia Lo Giudice. She is a life coach. She's a Toastmaster, and she's also an author. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Next week, we're going to have an amazing guest as well. We're going to have Hilary Hattenbach. She's going to be coming to us directly from LA, okay? And we'll be discussing marketing and branding and her latest projects. Hilary has developed award-winning campaigns for a number of entertainment and lifestyle brands, including the Walt Disney Company, Universal Pictures, Focus Features, 20th Century Fox, STX, Amazon Studios, and Sister. She's going to be an absolutely amazing guest. You don't want to miss that show. Just letting you know, folks, that this upcoming Wednesday at noon, myself and my co-host, Esther B., will be hosting Noon Hour Out of the Box. It is a show you do not want to miss. Great subject we have coming up. It is all about dating. It's a 15-minute show. We urge you guys to tune in. It's this upcoming Wednesday, noon. And also the following day, Thursday, we have Esther B., who's going to be hosting her show, Esther's Breeze. You want to tune in for that? That's going to be Thursday night at 8 o'clock. So to all of you, from all of us, a huge thank you. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be here next week. Ciao, everybody.